Okay, this is the Book of Esther. We are now in part 4. So let's do a quick review of chapter 3. It's part 4, chapter 4. A quick review of chapter 3. We're just going to run through it. We dealt with the Haman's conspiracy against the Jews. Haman was promoted by King Ahasuerus, and he was promoted. Haman, we found out, was an Agagite. He was a descendant from Agag, who was a king during the time of Saul's reign, who God had told Saul to kill him and all of his kingdom, women, children, everything, and Saul did not do that. He was disobedient. So Samuel had to kill him, but because of that disobedience and anything that came down through his line, we see was always troublesome to the children of Israel. He was promoted above all the princes who were with him, making him the most powerful official in the king's empire. And all the king's officials had to bow down before Haman. They had to pay him homage. The king had commanded this. But Mordecai would not bow and he would not pay homage. One of the things that we talked about last week was the fact that that Mordecai, being a Jew, he had told Esther to not tell anyone of your heritage, of your family background, not let anyone know that you're a Jew. But we see that Mordecai had also received some status within the kingdom. He had a little promotion. So he was amongst the some of the more elite and respected people. That's why he was able to go before the harem's gates, the king's gates, to find out all about Esther, what all she was doing, making sure she was taken care of. And we found out that he did tell those that he was close to that he was a Jew. One of the things that we learned about the Jews was part of their law is they are not to bow down to anyone but God. So it was kind of like twofold. Number one, yes, I do believe he could not. He took that stance of being a Jew that he was not going to bow down. But I think also that when you get a little bit of power yourself, a lot of times you don't think that you need to follow all the rules. You can do certain things that you feel is best for you. So it's kind of twofold. Again, this is just my opinion, but that's how I kind of saw him as I was reading a little bit more about Mordecai. The king's servants questioned Mordecai's refusal to bow. They wanted to know, why are you disobeying the king's command? And every day they questioned him because every day he refused to bow. He would not listen to them. They told Haman about this to see what he would do. Mordecai had told them again he was a Jew. So when they told Haman, they did let it be known that Mordecai was a Jew. So Haman's anger was really stoked against Mordecai. You saw that Mordecai did not bow down, did not pay him respect. He was filled with rage. He learned that Mordecai was a Jew. He sought to destroy all the Jews. He didn't want to just take care of Mordecai. He wanted to destroy all the Jews throughout the whole kingdom. Ahasuerus. He wanted every Jew killed. So he planned a genocide. And a date was chosen. From the first month, the month of Nisan, which was in April, the 12th year of King Xerxes' reign, is when they cast the lots in Haman's presence. The lots were called Purim or Pur, to determine the day and the month to carry out his plot. The month selected was March, and that was going to be actually of the following year. So Haman spoke to King Ahasuerus. He said, a certain race of people is scattered throughout all the province of your empire. Their laws are different from all other peoples, and they refuse to obey the laws of the king. And so he kind of like really threw it all out to the king. He's saying the whole race, when actually it was more Mordecai, who he was more angry with, but he decided to take it out on the entire race of Jews. So he's painting this picture to the king that the entire race of people, all throughout your province, they don't believe like you believe, they don't like your laws, and they refuse to obey the laws of the king. So the king should not let them live. Let's destroy them. Let a decree be written that they be destroyed. I will pay 10,000 talents of silver and deposit it in the royal treasury, be used as like a bounty. And the king makes a decree. The king agrees with Haman. He gives his signet ring to Haman as like, this is law. You sign it with this ring, it becomes law, knowing that they are the enemy of the Jews. We don't like them, we don't want them, we want them dead. With this ring, we're making it an official decree. The money and the people are given to you. Do with them as you see fit. King scribes were summoned. The 13th day of the first month, a decree was written according to all that Haman commanded, to the governors over each province, to all the officials of all the people, to every province according to its script, to every people in their language, written in the name of the king, sealed with the king's signet ring. So, you know, I think we talked about this before, that once the king made a decree, it could never be changed. Not even the king could change his own decree. And once this is sealed with his ring, this is it. No matter what happens, this is going to happen. This is when it's going to happen. So letters were sent to all the king's provinces to destroy, kill, and annihilate all the Jews, both young and old, little children and women, annihilated on a single day. I want them all killed in one day. We're not going to spread this out over, you know, a length of time. This is the day that we are choosing that it's going to happen, and it's scheduled for March the 7th of the next year. Jews' property would be given to those who killed them. So you not only had a bounty of money that was given, you also would be able to, anything that the Jews' property that was left after you killed them, it's yours. So it was open season, but it was actually open one day. But wherever you are in all the provinces, they're a Jew, you kill them. The decree made a law. The decree was to be issued as law in every province, published to all the people. They should be ready for that day. The decree went out by swift messengers, proclaimed in the fortress of Susa. The king and Haman then sat down to drink. You would think that they had enough of drinking. After a 6 month, 7 day party.
Yeah.
But hey, okay, we didn't set this up. Haman's now in charge of everybody outside the king. King didn't agree with me. And so let's make a toast. We're gonna get rid of all of them. There we go. So the city of Susa fell into confusion. Because, again, you know, this decree goes out and no one can really understand why are now all the Jews going to be put to death. They don't know that it was actually Mordecai who was disrespectful to Haman, but since Haman put this story out to the king that the entire race of people will disobey you, they are all no good, let's kill them all. You know, you got people who they don't understand, but they do know because it's been told to them that on this day next year you're gonna die.
Mm.
There's, you really don't know what the percentage was, but I would think that there was enough throughout, because remember, his reign went all the way from India to Ethiopia.
Right.
So you're looking at such a vast, wide range. The children of Israel have been taken captive by Babylon. So, some went back to Jerusalem, but some were just distributed all throughout. So you really don't know. But I could think, and I said, this is just my thought in my mind, that there were those who, even though they were Jews, they were friends with non-Jews because they all lived within the same community.
Who was going to handle it?
Who was going to handle the money? You had Haman now was given the decree. He put the money in the treasury, but the king gave it back to him to be distributed as he saw fit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure since he was now elevated above all the other princes and all the other officials, he had those working for him that he would know, okay, you did this, here you go. You kill 5, you get this amount. You kill 10, you get this amount. You kill 1, you only get this. However, which way he did it, there was a lot of money. When you think about 10,000 talents back in that day, we're talking about today's money, millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Millions. So, I'm sure, there were those who, even if they weren't friends of the Jews or whatever, and lived in a less than accommodating atmosphere or home life, they were looking for Jews to kill that day. They were making plans on what they were going to do. They were looking at people's houses and their properties and all. It's like making plans. Okay, I can get that. I'm going to get that. I'm going to spend, And so you got the whole city now is just thrown into a whole state of confusion, because today everything is cool. Now I'm being told in a year's time, every Jew, doesn't matter whatever else you are, as long as you're a Jew, if you can be Italian, you can be German, you can be whatever you want to be. But if you were a child of Israel, if you were a Jew, you were going to die. And go where?
I don't.
There was nowhere to go.
That's
it's just like, I know a lot of people think about our southern states, hurricanes, and people go, well, why would anybody want to live down there knowing that every year you're going to have a hurricane? Why don't they leave? Why don't they move? Well, some people, you just ain't going to move. This is your home. This is where you live. This is where you had your comfort. Where are you going to go? You don't know anywhere to go. You're established. Everything is fine. And then, yesterday it was cool. Today you're finding out you're going to die. And you got a whole year. Now, could some of them leave? I'm sure there were those who probably could leave. But think about it. If you didn't have a lot of money, number one, where were you going to go? Number two, how were you going to get there?
on a Greyhound.
Greyhound, ain't no train, ain't no plane. You are used to being here. So it's just, my mind is blown. I got a whole year to think about it. And I'm sure there were those that thought, well, maybe he'll change his mind. But then again, you got to remember, if it's the king made a decree, about the king, it's going to stand. So you got all this time to do what? Especially as a child of God. Well, we're going to get into that today, because you're going to find it out. Because this is what they should always and should have always done, what they're about to do now. And it's good feedback. Great question. Anybody else got any questions about what went on in chapter 3? Or any other comments? Okay. Let's go forward. This is chapter 4. The Jews are made aware of their coming destruction. This is Esther chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. When Mordecai learned all that had happened, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went out into the midst of the city. he cried out with a loud and bitter cry. He went as far as the front of the king's gate, for no one might enter the king's gate clothed with sackcloth. And in every province where the king's command and decree arrived, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing, and many lay in sackcloth and ashes. Okay, so let's go to the New Living Translation. Let's break this down. Mordecai learns Haman's plot. Mordecai learned about all that had been done. He tore his clothes, put on burlap and ashes, went into the city, crying with a loud and bitter wail. He went as far as the gate of the palace, for no one was allowed to enter the palace while wearing clothes of mourning. Again, he tore his clothes, put on those sackcloth and ashes, goes to the middle of the city. He's just, in peril. He's just, think about it. And anybody who knows, about the Jews, they are very dramatic when it comes to their ways of expressing themselves. Very emotional. So here's Mordecai now in the middle of the city. People don't really know why, but he knows why, and he's just tearing up Jack. He's in front of the king's gate because you can't go into the palace gate wearing mourning clothes, or wearing what he had on. The king decreed go out. And as news of the king's decree reached all the provinces, there was great mourning among the Jews. They fasted, wept, and wailed, and many people lay in burlap and ashes. So just like Mordecai did, all the people that received all of this information, they did the same thing. They started weeping, they started wailing, they're fasting. They don't, they're doing their ritual of putting on sackcloth or burlap and doing an ash. So here we go. The reaction is pure sorrow all across the kingdom. There was confusion in the capital city of Shushan. Mordecai himself puts on sackcloth and mourned loudly in the streets. Now, sackcloth and ashes were used in Old Testament times as a symbol of debasement, mourning, and or repentance. Someone wanted to show his repentant heart would often wear sackcloth, sit in ashes, and put ashes on top of his head. Sackcloth was a coarse material usually made of black goat's hair, making it quite uncomfortable to wear. The ashes signified desolation and ruin. The Jews responded to the devastating news concerning the decree to annihilate them and their race with sackcloth and ashes, showing their intense grief and distress. So it wasn't just enough to just go out and just start crying and everything. You had this outward show of their expressions, taking their normal clothes off, putting on this more uncomfortable clothing, sitting around in ashes, putting ashes on their heads, just, wailing and moaning and putting on this display showing the devastation of the news that's going to show them that they're about to be annihilated. And they were jacked up. They were in intense grief and they were distressed. Now think about the people who weren't Jews, who looked at this. They were even more jacked up because they're seeing this display. They're being told the Jews are going to die. So you got a whole kingdom of people who are just totally in upheaval, wondering what in the world has happened to cause the entire race of Jews to be annihilated. Any questions? Okay. Esther's concerned about Mordecai. Esther 4th chapter, verses 4 through 9. So Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her, and the queen was deeply distressed. Then she sent garments to clothe Mordecai and take his sackcloth away from him, but he would not accept it. Then Esther calls Hatak, one of the king's eunuchs, whom he had appointed to attend her, and she gave him a command concerning Mordecai to learn what and why this was. So everyone had found out, but she didn't know. All she knew was that Mordecai is out here in this sackcloth and he is jacked up. We need to know what's going on. So Hatak went out to Mordecai in the city square that was in front of the king's gate. And Mordecai told him all that had happened to him and the sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasuries to destroy the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the decree for their destruction, which was given at Shushan, that he might show it to Esther and explain to her, and that he might command her to go to the king to make supplication to him and plead before him for her people. So Hatak returned and told Esther the words of Mordecai. This is New Living Translation. When Queen Esther's maids and eunuchs came and told her about Mordecai, she was deeply distressed. She sent clothes to him to replace the burlap, but he refused it. She was deeply distressed because she couldn't understand what in the world was going on. Take this man some clothes. He can't sit out here like this. It's forbidden to even come into the palace, into the square. So you got it. He can't do this. But Mordecai said, I'm not changing that. So she sends for Hatak. Esther sent for Hatak, one of the king's eunuchs, who had been appointed as her attendant. She ordered him to go to Mordecai, find out what's troubling him and why he was in mourning. Remember, she had never told anybody she was a Jew. I don't think she told anybody that Mordecai was her relative. Because remember,
Right.
don't tell nobody about the family. Don't tell them your relationship. Don't tell them nothing. So Hatak, just being obedient, I'm sure in his mind, he's like, why is she so concerned about this dude? But I'm to attend her. Let me go find out. So one of the king's eunuchs, her attendant, she wanted to find out what's troubling him. Why is he in mourning? Mordecai tells Hatak of the king's decree. Hatak went out to Mordecai in the square in front of the palace gate. Mordecai told him the whole story, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai gave Hatak a copy of the decree issued at Susa that called for the death of all Jews. He asked Hatak to show it to Esther and explain the situation to her. He also asked Hatak to direct her to go to the king to beg for mercy and plead for her people. So Hatak returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. He goes out to Mordecai. Mordecai just like, look, this is what's happening. It's a shame. I know what I did to this man. Why he's going to do this to all the people, it's a shame. He done put up 10,000 talents. He done put a whole lot of money out as a bounty to pay for our destruction. Here's a copy. This is the written decree that's been sent out to everybody. Now you go and you take this to Esther and explain to her exactly what's going on. And please ask her to go to this king, beg for mercy, plead for people. Hatak returned to Esther with Mordecai's message. News of Mordecai's action in front of the king's gate reached Queen Esther, and she became despondent and in great anguish. So she sends her trusted manager, messenger, to Mordecai to find out exactly why this is happening. Mordecai tells Hatak everything. He tells Esther that she must go before the king, ask him to deliver the Jews. Hatak returns and tells Queen Esther all the information that was given to him. Got this message is being passed from Esther to Mordecai. Mordecai now back to Esther. He questions. Pretty self-explanatory here. Okay, so Esther questions Mordecai's request. This is Esther, the 4th chapter, verses 10 through 12. Then Esther spoke to Hatak and gave him a command for Mordecai. Now, you take this back to Mordecai. All the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that any man or woman who goes into the inner court to the king who has not been called, he has but one law: put all to death, except the one to whom the king holds out the golden scepter, that he may live. Yet I myself have not been called to go to the king these 30 days. So they told Mordecai Esther's words. So she's like, I know you want me to go, but this is what's going to happen to anybody that goes to the king who's not been called. All the king officials and even the people of the province, everybody knows. Whoever appears before the king in the inner court without being invited is doomed to die, unless the king holds out his golden scepter. He carries his scepter with him all the time. It's good to be the king. The king has not called for me to come to him for these last 30 days. It's been 30 days since I done seen him. And remember, nobody comes before the king unless he calls him by name. So it's been 30 days since I've seen him. So Hatak gives Esther's message to Mordecai. Yep, anybody that goes to the king who hasn't been called, there's only one law: you're going to die. Unless the king finds favor, holds out his gold scepter. The king hasn't called me to come to him for 30 days. Hatak, go tell Mordecai Esther's message. Esther puts up some excuses as to why going to the king without being summoned would not be a good idea. No, it would not be. According to the king's command, death is the sentence to anyone who comes before him uninvited. Anybody, this is pretty good. How you feel when you're at your house and somebody comes knocking on your door who knows you, they're a friend, whatever, you ain't called them, you sitting around in your whatever. Pajamas or your all together, and you know you want to have at least prior notice that somebody's coming by. When they come by uninvited, you know you feel some kind of way.
Little salty. Little salty.
Some folks won't even answer the door.
I don't answer the door.
You know,
I
I'm reminded, huh? Oh yeah, I'm reminded of when Jesus was given the example of the man who came by, knocking on the door, asking for food for his guests. And the guy said, "Listen, man, all my whole family's in bed. We all sleep."
Yep, that's what he said. Yep, sleep.
Open this door for you.
That's right.
What? I'm asleep.
Mm.
So this is what the king is saying in essence: if I ain't invited you, don't come. If you come into my place uninvited, I just am not gonna be salty. I'm just gonna not just answer the door. You gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it's only one law. It's only one law. There's no qualms, ain't no, well, you know, it's an emergency. It don't matter what it is. It's just one law. if you come and you ain't been invited, you're gonna die. Plain and simple. You're gonna die. Any questions? I think that's real self-explanatory.
Right.
I was just going to comment that I think the thing that always amazes me in this story and how God manages to intervene with this man is he's the ultimate.
It's really hard to hear you, Nora.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay. I was saying that I find it impressive that and it gives us hope that God can work in any situation, because the king really is the ultimate narcissist.
Yes.
From, all the concubines, and, if he doesn't want to see somebody, he just knocks them off, and
Right.
just everything is so self-serving. He doesn't serve his kingdom serves him.
That's why I say it's good to be the king to him. I'm the king. Well, I don't have to serve you. I'm the king. You're supposed to serve me. I don't have to do anything. Matter of fact, I was very generous when I had these parties and I sent out gifts to everybody.
That's true.
I was very generous when I had everybody come in and everybody gets a golden goblet. That's all different from everybody else. You're drinking wine. You can have anything you want. I gave y'all a 6-month party. What else you want? Nah, I'm the king. Now, just because I do it once don't mean I'm gonna do it all the time. I done set one decree, one law that says, don't come to me uninvited.
That's right.
You don't know what I may be doing. You don't know how I feel today. I'm not to serve you. I'm the king.
That included Esther too.
That included anybody.
Yes.
Whoever it was that if
Yep.
I didn't call you, if I didn't invite you, off with your head. You got to go. So, yeah, it sure is. So Mordecai's reply to Queen Esther, chapter 4, verses 13 through 14. And Mordecai told them to answer Esther, do not think in your heart that you will escape the king's palace any more than all the other Jews. For if you remain completely silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's house will perish. Yet, who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? God got a plan. Mordecai reminds Esther of her vulnerability.
And Mordecai was pushing her too. Remember.
He says he sent her this reply. Don't think for a moment that because you're in the palace, you will escape from all other Jews when all of the Jews are killed. If you keep quiet at this time like this, deliverance and relief for the Jews will arise from some other place, but you and your relatives will die. Who knows if perhaps you were more made queen for just such a time as this. And we see this all throughout the children of Israel.
Yes.
God always had, Michelle says best, God always has a remnant. God always has somebody. God made a donkey talk. God,
yes, he did.
He don't say he do Jesus Christ. If you don't say nothing, the rocks will cry out. God will always have somebody.
Yes.
If you don't do it, somebody else will.
That's right.
But let's think about this, Esther. You were a lowly Jewish girl. Let me get to the rest of this and I get to it. Don't think that you can escape death because you're in the king's palace. Along with all the Jews, if you keep silent, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. Who knows whether you have come to a kingdom for such a time as this? Here's Esther. She is chosen amongst all the women brought into the kingdom after Queen Vashti was banished, all of the beautiful women who had to go through the same beauty treatments, had to go through the same regimen for a year. 6 months
Preparation.
of oil,
Yeah.
6 months of perfume. And here we go. Here's your setup. She finds favor with the head eunuch of the first era. She finds favor with him. He sets her up. She goes into the king. She finds great favor with the king. King turns around now, makes her queen. God's people, we have favor.
Yes, yes.
Favor is better than money.
Amen.
Amen.
Now, this decree has gone out. And everybody knows with this decree, if you go to the king, you're going to die. But he's telling her, well, you know, what? You think just because you now the queen, you think just because you in the palace, you're going to escape? Even though you haven't told anybody who you are, it's going to come out. If you keep quiet about this, God's going to send deliverance from somebody.
Yes.
It's going to come from another place. But you, your relatives, me being one of them, they're going to die. So who knows? You don't know. I don't know God's plan, but just think about this. Who knows if perhaps you were made queen to be our deliverance. This such time. I want you to think about it. Mordecai needs to remind her that she is also vulnerable, even in the palace. She's a Jew after all. Mordecai tells her that she doesn't act, she'll be destroyed, and yet deliverance for the Jews will come from somewhere else. Then that famous line, and who knows if you've attained royalty for such a time as this. Any questions? Okay, we're going to go into the last part. Esther agrees to help the Jews. This is Esther verses 15 through 17, chapter 4. And Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, go gather all the Jews who are present in Shushan. Fast for me, neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. My maids and I will fast likewise. So I will go to the king, which is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther commanded him. You asked the question about, what should they do? Can they leave? Well, the one thing that they should, and even with us today, when we are in peril, we need to know how to go before God. Stop thinking with our brains and start thinking
Yes,
the
come on, Lord.
heart of God.
Yes.
He says,
Can you repeat that, Malcolm? What'd you say?
stop thinking with your brain and think with the heart of God that is within you.
Yes,
Are you
yes.
supposed to get? She says, fast for me. Don't eat 3 days. We're going on a 3-day fast, day and night. You tell all the Jews to do that. Me and my mates, we're gonna do likewise. Because I'm about to do something that is against the law. And I'm gonna believe that if I perish, hey, I'm perishing. But I'm gonna do what I believe God would want me to do. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther commanded. Esther sent this reply to Mordecai, go gather together all the Jews of Susa, fast for me, do not eat or drink for 3 days and nights. My maids and I will do the same. Everybody that's right here. She didn't say send out the decree to all the Jews. Just those that were here in this city. Those that were here in this province. All the Jews that are here, this is what I want you to do. All y'all that's sitting around in sackcloth and ashes, You're mourning and crying. Stop that and get a mind of God. Get a heart of God, and let's do something. Let's do what we know best to do when it comes to getting more in contact with God. Let's center ourselves. Let's do away with the outward appearance, and let's get into the heart of the matter by fasting, turning ourselves to God.
Yes.
Our leader, our queen, is about to go against the law for us.
Mhm.
She's about to put her life in jeopardy for us. We need to do something for her. Fast. Don't eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. Now we have a general fast here at Word for Life Worship Center that we do Wednesday from the time you wake up till 3 p.m. Some people can't do that. I have been on a 3-day fast before. Did not eat, did not drink for 3 days. I'm gonna tell you, that was tough. I didn't drink anything. I didn't drink water. I fasted for 3 days. I was much younger then. I did. I fasted for 3 days. And it was an experience. It really was. It was me and another guy. We decided we're going to do this. And we both did this. And it was tough. I'm not going to lie. You know, when you want to think about your flesh, you know, I got into more prayer that time. I really found myself locked away so that I could concentrate on why I was doing this. I wanted a deeper, closer relationship with God. And that's how I believe God had me do that. And I believe it changed my whole perspective, even as a young person, about God. So this is what she's saying. 3 days, do this. And me and my mates, we're going to do the same thing. We're used to lavishness. I'm the queen. My maids are used to lavishness. But for 3 days, we're not going to eat. We're not going to drink for 3 days. Says, and then, though it is against the law, I will go in to see the king. If I must die, I must die. So Mordecai went away and did everything as Esther had ordered him. I will go to the king. It's against the law. According to the law, if I gotta go, I gotta go. So Mordecai went and he gave the order to all the Jews that were in Shushan to do the same. This is a real turning point for Esther. Would she identify with her people and bear the reproach and danger associated with this identification? She's ready to own up to her identity as a Jew and approach the king. If she perishes, she says, she perishes. She tells Mordecai and the people to fast 3 days. She will also fast, and during that time, she hatches a plan.
But by this time, how long has she been away from her family?
Well, think about it. Now, well over a year,
About a year of that.
well over a year, she was even set up before it was time to go before the king. We don't know. She just went through a year of preparation. You don't know how many women went before the king, before Esther.
Yes.
They're not really, they're not really giving us, time frames. But you can imagine, in my mind, you don't know how long it took the king and even why the king promoted Haman. The decree had to go out to bow to Haman. I don't think this was an overnight thing that Haman realizes, hey, I got this, and all of a sudden, here's this man that's not paying me no homage. Time, I think, it's just hard to really gauge that. But just know that in all this time, Mordecai is devastated. And he's got to make sure that he can get word back and forth to Esther. Yeah. Esther, in the meantime, is still trying to keep her identity secret. But when Mordecai lets her know, hey, listen, if you don't do it, God's going to raise up somebody else, and it's going to be found out that you're a Jew, and you and your family, which means me and all the rest of us, we going to die. So you got to make a choice, and you got to make a decision. In essence, what he's saying, I'm releasing you from that vow I had you do too. Because you need to go to this king and tell him some stuff. Because I guarantee you, when you go to the king and tell the king, don't kill the Jews, one reason, what king gonna ask why? And what you gonna say? You know, I guess because I'm a Jew too. Either way you go, they're gonna find out. So it says,
Malcolm,
yes.
this really struck me here, what you've got up on the screen, because it has such a real world, real life application for us.
Yes.
You know, just will we be willing to associate and be identified as those people, you know, on our job,
Right.
you know, at the store, in our neighborhood, whatever,
Right.
because a lot of times it's easier with as polarized as things are becoming, and how incredibly reactionary people are about so many issues right now.
Yes.
It's really easy to just stay quiet
Yes.
and not be counted.
Right.
But we can't do that, you know?
No.
And it's that whole thing, if, you know, where it says, if she perishes, she says she perishes.
Right.
And it's like, and we're not even in danger of that sort of thing. We're just
Right.
in danger of being thought of as those people, those crazy Jesus people, or
Right.
or whatever. And yet,
Right.
I just thought that was a very telling moment there.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And then it's so true. So she's ready to own up to her identity as a Jew. Are we ready to own up to our identity as Christians?
Yeah.
But she's been away from her people for 7 years.
She's been away from
She
them
has-
probably for 7
She
years.
has almost nothing in common.
Right. But still, you know who you are.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
know who you are. You know
You are.
who Mordecai is.
Yes.
You're being told of the
Yes.
practice of
Yes.
sackcloth and ashes. If nothing else, that's going to bring back to your memory what you grew up with as a child,
Right.
what you know about your relationship in your whole realm of being a Jew. You know, I'm sure there was all kind of things brought back to her mind that let her realize, you know, you can forget about where you come from, but you're always going to be reminded of where you come from. What's the saying? You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out the boy.
Yep.
That's right. That's right.
That's the same way here. You can take her away from all the Jews, but you can't take the Jew out of the girl.
Right.
She knew who she was. She knew that Mordecai told her, don't tell nobody. And she was obedient. She didn't tell nobody. It was a secret, but she knew it and she kept that.
Yes.
Now it's being brought to the forefront. You're going to have to do something. You're going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to identify with those that are being told they're getting ready to die. So this is what we need to do. Let's fast. Let's get in contact. Let's prepare ourselves. And during that, I like the last sentence was, and during that time she hatches a plan. God will tell you what to do. When you get yourself into a place where you are ready to receive God's instructions, God will tell you what to do. You sitting around in that sackcloth and ashes and mourning and yelling and screaming and hollering, you ain't getting nothing.
Mm-hmm.
God can't speak to you, or God can speak to you, but you can't hear him because you're so self-absorbed with your emotions and your outward appearance and your outward pouring that you cannot get yourself to a place where you can hear and understand and know what God wants. So let's get into a frame of mind by going into a fast.
And prayer.
The flesh
Yes.
Let's deal
Yes.
with the spirit.
Yes.
Now we're at a place where we have open receptors and God can speak. So God helps her hatch a plan. We're going to go into great response. So now we're starting to get into the real meat of Esther. So let's just review some questions for this chapter and we'll be done. What are the main points of this chapter? We dealt with Haman's conspiracy against the Jews. We dealt with Haman's plan for genocide, the king's decree. Those are the three main things that we dealt with. What does Mordecai do when he learns of Haman's plot?
He tells the king's eunuch.
First, he
He told
tears
her
his clothes.
clothes off. Right.
He puts on sackcloth and ashes.
Mhm.
Exactly, just like a normal Jew would in time of peril. When the king's decree reaches the provinces, what did the people do?
Wept and cried.
They were fasting, weeping, and wailing. They
And
were
wailing.
doing the same thing. They lay in sackcloth and ashes as well. The whole outward display of emotional distress. During this time of doing these types of things, you cannot hear from God.
Amen.
You're not even putting God in a place of reverence. You are so concerned about yourself.
Mhm.
You're not at a place where God can reach you. This is what was going on. Why was Esther concerned about Mordecai's attitude? Her maids and eunuchs told her all about Mordecai. He was sitting around out here in sackcloth and ashes. He was decked up. So she sent him clothes to replace those sackcloths, but he refused. What did Mordecai do about the clothes he sent to him? I just answered that. He would not accept the change of clothes. What does Mordecai tell Hatak, the king's eunuch, to do?
About the whole plan.
About the whole plan. What they were going to do.
Hatak to show the king's decree that Esther and explain it to her.
Mhm.
This is the king's decree. All Jews are going to die.
Mhm.
This is when they're going to die.
Children.
This is how they're going to die. All
Mhm.
the money that's been given. And I need you to tell her, go to the king. Beg for mercy and plead for her people.
Mhm.
Catch that part?
Her people.
Plead for your people,
Her
our
people.
people. So that in essence, you're going to tell the king you are a Jew.
Mhm.
Oh, he put her in it. He put her right in a serious corner.
Mhm.
You need to beg for mercy and plead for the people. What is Esther's reply to Mordecai's request? And when it goes into the inner court of the king who's not been called, all are put to death unless the king holds out his gold scepter. What is Mordecai's response to Esther? A word I used to hear, so. Mordecai reminds Esther about her vulnerability. You can't escape death because you are in the king's palace. Remember, you need to go and talk to him about your people. So you ain't going to escape. If you keep silent, relief and deliverance will arise for the Jews from another place. If you don't do it, God gonna raise up somebody else. But you and your father's house, we gonna perish. What instructions does Esther give to Mordecai?
Tell the people to fast for 3 days.
Gather all the Jews who are in Shushan, fast for me.
After me. Mhm.
Esther and her maids will also fast.
Yes.
What does Esther decree? Famous words. I will go,
To the king.
although it's against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Wow. What a setup. Now it's getting intriguing and exciting. Next week, we're going to go into chapter 5 of the book of Esther.